the question of the day is, what do you do when representative government ceases to represent the people? That's their job, by the way, to represent the people. But I think all of us are very well aware that today's government does not represent the people. In other words, you could have 95% of the people think it's just common sense to check out a person before you allow them to own a gun, and the government simply doesn't pass that law, right? So clearly the government is out of touch with the people, which doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know what the people want. There's certainly ways for them to know what the people want, but it means that something else is driving them other than their actual job of representing the people. And really, when it comes down to it, the biggest problem is how they got there. It's not always the fault of any individual lawmaker. No particular senator or congressperson is responsible for the way that things are. But over time, it has become that you have to have a large amount of money even to just get into either Congress or the Senate. Nobody else can even run, hardly. Occasionally you get somebody like AOC who is proud of having been a waitress, right? But it's very unusual. It really, it's really her personality that got her the job. So the point is then, we could think of getting money out of politics. That is not going to be easy because we would be relying on the government to vote money out of politics, and that's not going to happen. So what recourse do we have? Well, we could have a referendum. I don't know that we've ever had a national referendum. It's not like they need to hear what we think. A referendum would have to be binding in its implementation. And I'm not quite sure of the state of, if that's in the Constitution or not. I never even thought about it, actually. It is in some state constitutions, but often it's very difficult. There's a pretty big barrier to getting a referendum together. So, but there was other ways to do this. Maybe not always easy, but so the biggest problem for a start is that we have elected representative government. We don't have to have elected representative government. Representative democracy could just as well function, actually much better function, if we had people chosen at random. Citizens that were chosen by some sort of random ballot. Okay, so not something that we have to vote on, but something whereby anybody could actually become part of a government. So there's many arguments against this, of course, such as that any random person doesn't really know what's going on, and that is true. But if you're chosen by lottery to be part of a government, that means that you can certainly find the information. You must be given that information. Just as our representatives right now don't go in there knowing everything. They have to learn a huge amount. So representative democracy works actually better if the representatives are chosen by some kind of lottery. And now, when I say that, I have to think about it for a little while, right? Because I have to have some sort of evidence, and some sort of evidence is occurring all over the world, actually, right? The Paris Citizens Assembly, for instance. In Taiwan, there's a very strong influence on the government. They are finding ways to incorporate the people's voice, and that is not yet like elected. It's not yet chosen by lottery. The government is not chosen by lottery, but in many places at this point, a random assortment of citizens are being chosen to deliberate on specific issues. And maybe that's the way to go for now. Maybe we can't replace the whole of the government because that would be very difficult. But meanwhile, we are gathering together evidence to show that randomly chosen citizens who are brought together for a long enough time period and are given enough information can actually make very good decisions. Now, again, though, there's no point in getting a group of people to represent us and then not being able to express our own voice. So representative democracy means all of us have to have access to be able to express what we think. And also to propose solutions, to say how we feel about, what other people are proposing. And so that means we need a body that is capable of deliberation amongst themselves and in response to whatever the general population is saying. And in theory, that is what our government is supposed to be doing, right? And to some extent, they used to do that. You used to get Republicans and Democrats sitting down together and talking things out. But now, a representative is beholden to their party. So they are not working for the people, they are working for the party. So then, that would be avoided if people are chosen by lottery. They wouldn't be beholden to a party for their position. So there are certain things. It certainly requires that people don't stay in this job for too long, right? So better that people get chosen for a year. I mean, you need a year to sort of get skilled and to learn about specific issues. Take on, for instance, something like homelessness. Healthcare is a big problem in America, so that may be very, very big and would take several years to resolve. But in a year, you could start to move in a direction whereby after a few years, you could actually have universal healthcare, which probably if people weren't so brainwashed by the media, they would want anyway. Most people would want it. So that's another point. You have to actually have media that is able to communicate what's going on. And in that, we are lucky. We are very fortunate because we are living in the age of the internet. So we should have open government. And so a body that is deliberating should be completely open to the people. So we should have that, that can be posted all the time. That can be ongoing on the internet. And then we can find ways, crowdsourcing and so on, to put in what we think as our solutions to this. Okay? So I'll put a couple of links at the bottom of this YouTube to show, for you to read where people are discussing this. But this is already happening in many, many places. Many states have some form of this. A proposition has problems. California's proposition has problems because there's not enough expert input. So sometimes the solutions that are suggested actually create more problems. So any body that is deliberating must have access to expert input, but not partisan input. That is a big problem. Okay, well, anyway, I'll probably be talking about this quite a lot in the future because I think it's a huge issue and a very timely issue. And I thank our government for really rubbing it into our faces that the time for this proposal is now. Thank you.